Welcome back to a brand new season of Rip It Up. Every renovation teaches you something, but it's only after you've lived through the dust, the delays, and the decisions, and then done it again like me, that the real lessons appear. This season, we're revisiting our biggest renovation topics, not with theory, not with optimism, but with hindsight. Process, planning, lighting, kitchens, bathroom, windows, what worked, what didn't, and what we'd never do the same way again. This is What We Wish We Knew Then.
Welcome back to the podcast. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Jen.
How are you doing?
All good?
Great. This is my favourite topic. We did part one last week of a mechanical and electrical plan, your M&E plan. Last week we did mechanical. It got a bit scatty, in the true sense of the word. It's a lot of toilet talk. This week we're going to keep it much cleaner, much more glamorous. Your electrical plan, which sounds kind of daunting but isn't. But do get it right. Don't get it wrong.
It is important. Like, it's one of those key, I suppose, structural things in your house that's hard to change afterwards. Now, I will say some of the electrical stuff has gotten easier with, rechargeable lights, all this kind of stuff in the last few years. But still, if you plan it well, I think it just works so much better.
Yeah, because it's not just lighting. It's your plugs, where you're charging your phone, where your robot vacuum is going to plug in, like all that kind of stuff. And the easier, the more thought you put into it now, it's not rocket science, but the more thought you put into it now, your life will genuinely be easier. Okay, so here's how you do it, right? What we're talking about with electrical plan, this is again back to your first fix stage of your renovation. This is where the walls are still open and your electrician is going to come to you at some stage and say, what's your electrical plan? And what they mean is, roughly, where should we put the wires for the things that you want before the plasterboard goes up?
Yeah. Otherwise, you're chasing walls and making holes after the fact, which is not what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So what that means is that at that stage, if you're at first fix, is that you need to roughly decide where you're going to have lights, roughly decide where you're going to have sockets, your Wi-Fi and data points, your any kind of appliances that you're going to have in your house, anything that needs to be kind of wired in, like it could be your alarm, for example, or an extractor fan, things like that.
Yeah.
That's what you need to have decided, roughly where are they going to be. So there's a few things that help. One, what that means then is at this stage, you do need to have a rough idea of the layout of your house. So roughly where your kitchen is going to be and your bathroom, so you know where to put your wall lights and things like that. But also roughly where your big pieces of furniture are going to be. Like, you need to know roughly where you're going to put your bed so that you have the wall lights and the switches and the sockets and everything at the right points.
I'd almost say not roughly for a few things, because how many times you've been in a bedroom and you've tried to plug something in and the plug socket is right behind the bed frame?
Just a bit too low, or behind the
Or the
couch
plug
or something.
won't fit then because it's a deeper plug and it's in the way, or a locker is completely blocking it and you're reaching behind a locker to put in a plug. Like, stuff like that is so annoying, and it's just things that you can kind of fairly easily, I would say, plan in for. Like, we know the wall the bed is going on, but in terms of like standard spacing, if it's a super king, how many centimeters out you want either side of that, heights from the walls, it's kind of a standard minimum, but like roughly where do you want them? If you get that wrong by 5 or 10 centimeters one way or the other, the leg of your bed could be covering it.
Yeah. So if you're at first fix stage, you've got a bit of wiggle room. You want to know where your bed is going, but like there's a bit of leeway between, say, like a king or a super king. If you're at second fix, this is where the plasterboard is going up, the walls are getting plastered. Now you're down to your centimeters and you really need to get that right. Okay, so tips then for how do you decide all that?
So lighting, like, I know this is your baby, but like one thing I learned in this time around, I did this on my iPad and it's so simple. Like, a lot of architects, if you're doing a major renovation, will probably do a lighting plan for you or an electrical plan for you, or at least a draft one. But then you have to kind of take that and do a walkthrough yourself and kind of decide. Like, is it enough? Is it right? Is where the architect has drawn the kitchen and the size of the island exactly what it's going to be? And so, like, I walked around with that and with kind of just different color pens or markers, said, no, I want a pendant here. I want less spots. Like, I think spots can be so heavy in some of these electrical plans. So I always pare them back if I can. And then, like, I actually put them in a lot in this renovation, is like surface kind of adjustable spots, like, the tubular ones. gives you a bit of wiggle room. You don't have to be exactly where the kitchen is or exactly where something is because
Is
you can
on that
angle the
point, like
light
the
one
reason
way or
we
the other,
keep
and a
saying
bit
this, and if
softer
you've
than
been a
down
long
low.
time listener, you might have heard us say this so many times. We don't like spots because straight down overhead lighting is really unflattering and it looks like you're being interrogated. And there's just,
Mm,
they tend to just get thrown in en masse
yeah,
when a house is being done and it's not necessary. And it's much nicer in most rooms to have wall lighting, diffuse lighting, whatever
mm,
it might be. So you do need spots and task lighting, certainly in your kitchen, potentially in your bathroom, or maybe over a desk or something like that. But you don't need as many as you would think. And
yeah,
those ones that you're talking about, the kind of maybe the ones that are on trackers or the kind of angled spotlights, they're much nicer because they're not giving you that straight, direct, vertical,
yeah.
down lighting. Anything that can be changed to kind of come at you at an angle is much nicer than
Now,
overhead.
one of the things, as much as I hate downlights, I have one, two, three, four, five, six in my kitchen, and I have two more in my hallway, maybe.
Yeah, you need them in certain
Um,
places.
and this, without a doubt, if I did a renovation 100 times over, I would put in these spotlights, which is plastered in spotlights,
Oh,
trimless
yeah, that's
spotlights.
so good.
These have to be known kind of before the plaster work is done. So they're a tiny bit more expensive. Well, they're a little bit more expensive, but they are more expensive to install because they have to be done
Yeah,
before the plaster comes in and skims over the kind of mesh that goes into your ceiling. But plaster in spots, trimless spots, recessed up in the ceiling, they're almost invisible. They are the
yeah,
best. And
they're
you can
so
even get
nice.
ones that are plaster in and adjustable within the ceiling void. Like, won
And
the lottery when I put those in.
and if you put them on a dimmer switch, then that's
Yeah,
perfect. I'm fine with those then. I don't mind those at all. That's
yeah.
yeah,
But
they're allowed.
that would be one takeaway for me. I would do it time and time and time again, put in the plaster in spots without the trims,
Yeah.
and they look so minimal. And then I think a lot of renovations now, for the most part, if you're doing an extension, you probably have some sort of roof light. I would say
Yeah.
90% of the ones that I'm seeing put in now have a roof light. Use the hips and the side walls of that roof light cavity, we'll say, or that opening to surface mount some of those, adjustable
Yeah.
spots. That'll be
Yeah.
the additional light. So that's another way to kind of minimize the amount of spots in your ceiling.
Yeah. Or just reduce that overhead glare
Yeah,
interrogation room look. That's what we're after.
yeah,
Um, okay, that's really, really helpful. So it's thinking about then like the way I like to approach it when I'm doing a house is thinking about it in terms of those layers of lighting. So where are the main points that you need those main lights, so those overhead lights, that task lighting. Then the second layer is like where do you need specific task lighting that might be a reading light in the corner beside your couch, or it might be shelf lighting. Like we both have LED strips on our kind of under our shelf lighting, which can look really good. And then finally, where
mm,
do you want your nice accent lighting? And that could be just a little uplight in an alcove, or maybe like a light for a piece of artwork or something like that. Kind
yeah,
of really
yeah,
more of a feature and like atmospheric than actually necessarily providing light.
yeah,
But those are the three layers, and it's really helpful to just do a walkthrough then of your house. And maybe your house doesn't exist yet in it or in its like future state, so you might have to do a virtual walkthrough kind of on your plans. But really just thinking about like when you come in the front door, can you turn on the light? When you go into a certain room, can you turn on the light? Can you turn it off from bed? Can you turn it off from the top of the stairs?
hmm,
Um, can you dim it if you need to dim it? Like what is that room being used for? That's always our number one thing. Um, do you want that to be? Is there going to be people being entertained in that room? Do you need to be able to dim that lighting? Should it be more atmospheric? If you're using a spare room, crucially as a bedroom, when it's in use as a bedroom with the sofa bed or whatever is folded out, is that person sleeping in there going to be able to turn on and off lighting in that
yeah.
room? Um, all that kind of stuff.
I generally think like controls in terms of the circuits, the number of circuits, is paramount. That you can turn on wall lights separately, you can turn on spots separately, you can turn on pendants
Yeah,
separately. That they don't all come on together, and you've no option to kind of dim or soften that light.
yeah,
And then I also think for lights that you want really bright at certain times of day, but really dim in the evenings, just put a dimmer on them.
yeah,
I would say put a dimmer on almost everything that you can for in terms of main lights. You know,
yeah,
I just think it's worth it. I don't think you'll regret a dimmer switch. I think maybe like those kind of atmospheric wall lights, maybe they don't need dimmers or whatever. But for the
yeah,
most part, like lots of spots probably could do with some dimmers, even the adjustable spots and some pendants. could do with dimmers. And like, if you've already done this and if you've made some of these mistakes, you haven't put them in, there are like other smart ways, literally smart ways, like smart bulbs and all that you can kind of fix it retrospectively. But if you're planning at the planning stage now, I definitely say like the amount of adjustment that you could build in now will make your life easier and the house just feel nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're still on lighting here. So one thing, like we're talking about where you might need main lighting, where you might need task lighting. And a concept that you need to be aware of in order to plan that out properly is how much light you need in each space. So it used to be that you bought your bulbs based on watts. That's changed now because most bulbs are LED, so it doesn't have the same translation. So the terminology that's used, or the unit that's used to measure the amount of light that comes out of a bulb, is lumens or lux. So what you need to, you can Google it, or we'll put it in the show notes as well. Per area or per room, there's a recommended guide for how many lumens per square meter you need for that kind of ambient light. So typically, like living rooms and bedrooms need between kind of 300 to 400 lumens per square meter. Kitchens and bathrooms, when if you're working and you need your task lighting, they can be higher, like 5 to 7, even maybe 800 per square meter. If you've dimmers, then you can obviously adjust that as you go. But what that helps you to decide is how many lights and light bulbs do you need in that room in order to achieve that amount of lighting.
And just a consideration that we had to make as well, because we have high ceilings in some of the rooms, usually these kind of lux per square meter are calculated at kind of standard enough ceiling heights, like 2.4 or whatever ceiling heights. If you're up around the 3 meter ceiling heights, you might need to like adjust that up another little bit, because the light fall that you get down at your table level or your kitchen level or whatever is going to be lower. So again, dimmers here are your friend. You can obviously adjust bulbs and stuff after the fact as well, unless the fittings have like fixed bulbs. So like, you have a bit of wiggle room depending on what bulbs to put into what fittings. But talking about like lumens, lux, another one, and we love talking about this, is kelvins. Like, knowing the warmth of your bulbs as well. I've walked into kitchens and, they've just renovated a lovely kitchen. What do you think of our kitchen? And they're all cool white spots. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm at a dentist. Cool white bulbs should just not exist in a residential setting. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
just
agreed. I never liked them.
Keep it to 2,700, 3,000 kelvins. Like over that, you could push to 4 sometimes in some areas, but like over that, it's not nice. It's just not nice for a residential setting at all.
Yeah, agreed. So kelvins is how warm your light is, from like really, really yellow, that almost kind of candlelit orangey yellow is a really low kelvins, like 2,000, something like that. Even 1,500, you can have those really, really, really warm lights. And then higher kelvins is that white clinical light.
Almost blue. It goes up to like, when you get up to the 5, 6, 7,000, it's like, wow.
Nobody looks good in it. There's just
nobody, no. And the house doesn't look
so
good
unflattering. No, it doesn't.
And remember as well, the kelvins can really affect your paint colors, so you have to kind of consider that as well. If those lights are going to be on all the time, your paint will be affected by the color of your bulbs as well. And a harsh lesson I learned here, and I think I explained this to you a while back, that I bought wall lights that have fixed bulbs in them, so you couldn't change out the bulbs. I even asked my electrician, but they're kind of welded in, they're kind of LED components, so I couldn't change them out. But my wall lights in my hall were different than the lights in my kitchen, and you could kind of see them both in the same line of sight. So the mixing of kelvins looked really crap, and I was like, I'm gonna have to just change the wall lights. And a lovely follower sent me a message saying that she used a dimmer tape. It's like a brown mesh tape that you tape over LED bulbs, like the little dot bulbs, those kind of LED ones, and it just dims them and warms them, so now they're all matched.
Unreal. That's really, because I know loads of people who would have put in maybe LED strips or whatever, but those, like being able to see those individual lights is a nightmare, and you might not always be able to put a diffuser over them. We'll put a link to that tape into the show notes. It's on Amazon.
Fantastic. So if you've made the mistake like I did, that's a nice kind of retrospective fix.
Yeah. And we did say it, like, do try to get it right, but don't freak out about it. Like, it is getting much easier to retrofit these things. Smart lighting and smart bulbs are getting much, much cheaper because there's new technology, IKEA have introduced a new range that is Matter compatible. So that all just means it's going to be cheaper and easier to to get smart bulbs. The rechargeable lamps are getting better, but
they are, yeah.
And as well, outdoor lighting is one to think about. And this is another one that's actually quite easy to retrofit, because there's so many really good solar lights out there at the moment, which you probably want to use anyway. So if you nail your kind of main outdoor lights, like maybe you want like one outdoor out your front door on a sensor or something like that, or if you want like specific lights that like uplighting your house or something, that's fine, but don't freak out too much about your garden lights. It's probably easier going with solar lighting there.
Plan for an outdoor plug though, and then you always have a backup, for wired kind of lights in amongst your plants and stuff like that, the kind of wired ones you can bury. We have some of those in our back garden as well, and some of them are just plug-in, which works.
Yeah, and switches potentially outside as well.
And you talked about kelvins there and smart bulbs. A lot of the new smart bulbs are like multicolor, if you want color. Like my kids unfortunately do in their bedroom sometimes, but like the kelvins, you can put it all the way down to like whatever 1500, really low orange light, all the way up to bright cool white. And there's even like candle settings on some of them. So if you had really funky wall lights, you can set the smart bulb to a candle setting that flickers like a candle.
Oh, that's quite sweet.
Yeah, so like they're the few ones I have. Yeah, it is nice. It's actually, I've used it in the dining room. It's kind of a nice soft light at night. But so these are all kind of retrospective fixes that can give you the illusion that you've done all right the first time out.
Cozy. Okay, that's lighting, and there is a lot in it. That's not the only thing that goes into your electrical plan. You also need to think about where your sockets are going to go, where your switches are going to go, and then anything that needs to be kind of hardwired in. You need to think about where that's going to go as well. And then crucially, Wi-Fi points, data points, especially if you're in an old house, that really needs some planning. Yeah.
And it's worth noting, I suppose, for your walk around or for your first fix with your electrician, generally they'll want to know, like, they don't want to know what fitting you have. Like those light fittings will come at the very end, and those sockets will come at the very end, and those the actual fitting is so far down the road, but they just kind of generally want to know, is it a spot that's in your ceiling that they have to plan for that kind of cutout, or is it just a pendant where it's a flex coming out and the light fitting is connected to that, or if it's like you said, a Cat 6 or a Wi-Fi point or whatever, or sockets, that's all they kind of need to know at this stage. So it can be as simple as dots on a piece of paper, mapping out what's going where.
Plus what circuit is each one on. So you mentioned there, like it's really helpful to have, different layers of lighting on different switches. It's also helpful to have different switches controlling the same lights at different points in your house. So top and bottom of your stairs is an obvious one there. Or maybe just inside your bedroom door and then beside your bed could be another one. But just, what kind of circuit are those lights on? They'll want to know at that stage as well. And then we would always say it's better to go for too many switches and sockets than too few. But just bear in mind, it is that if you are going for expensive plates, if you have like really fancy plates, switch plates or socket plates or whatever, that is a cost that's going to hit you towards the end. Like if you're getting something like a really nice like brushed brass switch plates or something like that, you could be looking at it like a few hundred extra euro at the end. Nothing wrong with that. Like we still say go for extra, but just bear in mind that cost might be.
But like you're very quickly up at like 80 to 100 across your house. You're like your hand up and you're like, no way, it couldn't be that high. But it kind of is when you add like possibly 4 sockets for a room and a switch and then fittings, whatever. Like it really racks up. So it's not to be underestimated, I suppose. Yeah.
And I always think as well with those, like I'm really into those lovely like accent plates and switches and all that kind of stuff. You don't necessarily have to do it everywhere. Like you might have it in the obvious, maybe in your kitchen backsplash or something like that if you want to have a really nice one. It doesn't mean you can't put like plain white ones in kind of less visible areas of the house.
Exactly.
They don't all
or something that you upgrade later, right? Like once you have it's better put in the point, the plug or whatever, and have it there, and then upgrade the faceplate later if you want to, and you have the money then a year down the line. But putting in a socket that's not on a wall where you want it is a much bigger issue down the line.
Yeah, exactly. So that's sockets, and then just be realistic about like where do they go, like either side of the bed, easy to access from the bed, not hidden behind the bedside locker. Like especially like our plugs in Ireland are so bulky. Yeah, so if it's a piece of furniture covering a plug, it's really hard to get the plug in. Like you really have to pull it out. Yeah. So where's your desk going? And then we mentioned it earlier, but if you're in an older house, you definitely need extra data points, Wi-Fi points for
Yeah.
extenders or routers, whatever it might be, because the signal just doesn't get through those old walls.
Yeah, you want
Um,
at least one upstairs and downstairs, but like you probably want them at all your TV points
yeah,
nowadays,
yeah,
ideally. So like just make sure that it's kind of relatively central in the house that that signal can get all the way out. It's just not
yeah,
blocked by solid brick walls or whatever.
yeah. Um, and then lastly, where do you want your anything to be hardwired in? Um, So we have switches, we have sockets, we have data points, we have lights, but there's also going to be certain items, like you might have a house alarm, for example, where there's certain appliances in your kitchen, your extractor fans, they'll need to be hardwired in and they might not necessarily be on, well, they'll be on their own kind of separate switches, but
Yeah.
at this point you'll need to know where they're going as well.
That's something worthwhile planning for as well, isolator switches, because you can have a lot of
Yeah,
appliances in your kitchen now, right? You can have 4 or 5 of them, and like, I mean, electricians love putting in individual ones because they're easier to wire, but you can get multi-gang isolator switches, like 4 or 5 on the
yeah,
same faceplate that are labeled differently, and it's
which
much
is what I have.
tidier if it's
Yeah,
tidier, if it's on a backsplash or tucked into a corner or whatever. So just plan for that.
yeah.
Like where are the isolator switches going? I thought I was really smart in my last house putting it on the hidden side of the island until people with kids come in. They were like, your kids are gonna have a lot of fun with these switches. Like switching them off.
And
I'm
were they
like,
just switching them on and off? Oh my
well,
gosh,
like
did you
no,
frost your whole freezer?
by the time we moved out, I suppose Matt wasn't really old enough to have discovered
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
But like other kids come into our house and just switch them off. You know, the fridges,
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
switches were down at their access
Okay, so maybe that's something
point.
that goes in the cupboard or something like that that your kids can't
But like
reach.
it, technically they
To
have to
frost.
be reachable, right, for safety. But like we
Yeah.
thought we were very smart putting them there, whereas people with kids were like, that's a terrible position for them.
Oh, do you know another one that people always forget as well is almost everyone has a robot Hoover now. So just think about it, or like
Yeah.
and as well maybe wiring in sockets. Like you have a cupboard where you do your recharging, where you hang up your, your Hoover, your like stick
Yeah,
Hoover
yeah, yeah.
or vacuum cleaner. So like, where is that kind of stuff gonna recharge?
Yeah.
So maybe think about having sockets in one of your cupboards and think about that being specifically for recharging your, like a handheld vacuum or something like that. And then
Yeah.
if you do have a robot vacuum, where's that going to be recharging?
Yeah.
Do you know what one is kind of, I found really difficult to get is the bathroom sockets for charging up your electric toothbrush. I had a
As
nightmare
in
getting
just
those.
ones that look nice, or
Just in general, just getting one in
like
was
shaver ones, or just
yeah, the
in
shaver is the
standard
only
ones.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my electrician was
You have
looking
to
out to
put
me
them
just being
like
like, it's
in
hard.
specific points, don't you? And when
Yeah.
I was in the States recently, they had a lovely vanity, someone I was staying with. And when you open the drawer of the vanity, the plug was built into the drawer of the vanity. I was
Oh, we
like,
can't do
oh,
that.
the dream. Like, why can't we do that here? Like, I
Like,
just thought that was
listener,
such a
if you're
great
listening
way
from
of
Ireland,
tidying.
you basically can't put electrics into your bathroom at all. It's really,
Yeah,
really strict what you can put into your bathroom in
yeah,
terms of electric. So, like, all the lights that you have to put in, that you put in, have to be bathroom rated.
yeah, yeah,
And the only socket that you're allowed to put in is that shavers only one that's rated for a bathroom. You know,
yeah,
the little two-prong one that you can stick your thing into. Nothing else. And like, it's not as strict in the continent as all. We both lived in the Netherlands separately, like for a period of time in our 20s,
mm.
and they all have like washing machines and dryers in their bathrooms, just where they put them. But we can't do
Yeah.
that
And
at
do you know
all.
what? They didn't throw a bloody hairdryer into their bath either.
Yeah,
You know, I survived the time I lived there.
we
Like,
made it.
okay, I won't throw my hairdryer into the bath. Like, it's so ridiculous. I'm going to dry my hair in the bath while I'm here, you know?
It's really strict.
It's
But
very
you gave
strict.
a tip on a previous episode, which is so good, which is if you're really stuck for bathroom lighting, also include outdoor lights in your
Yeah.
search because they're rated the same,
And
so you
they're the
can use
same.
them
Most
inside.
of them
Yeah,
look the same, like the wall lights, the
yeah,
bathroom wall lights. I think there's like
great tip.
is it 50 or 55? And then there's IP 65. So, like, if it's in a splash zone, you need the IP 55 or whatever. And then if it's in a shower or like beside a wet zone or very close to a splash zone, then
Yeah,
you need like the IP65. Whereas all the outdoor lights, all of them are IP65. And then there's an even higher rating again. I think it's IP67, which would be like essentially swimming pool setting or something like that. But like all the outdoor lights will work, and I found them like a fraction of the price for
yeah,
outdoor wall lights as opposed to bathroom wall lights. Even though it's
yeah,
the same thing, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just to watch out because they are expensive. So like when you're doing your lighting plan here, you might need to know the position of your mirror and wall light, or your wall light / mirror if it's all in one piece. That positioning kind of might need to be thought about at this stage as well.
Yeah.
So you don't have a trailing cable.
I think that's it. I think that's your lighting plan, your electrical plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simples.
Great. Simples. It is simple. Like, really think about it, but just be smart. Like, think about it in terms of usage and utility, and go through your day in your head, like waking up, going to bed, walking in the front door, having guests over. Think about that. Like, think about everything you want to be, like, where are you charging your phone, all that kind of stuff. Where's your TV going? Like, all that. Just really think very, very practically, as much detail as you can, about how you live in the house and where you need that stuff to go, and that's it. And don't be daunted.
Think about like what you see in the same line of sight. That like wall lights match, or they're not clashing, or they're not like all slightly off levels, so they look a bit weird. So just think about what you see altogether as well, because sometimes looking across a kitchen and seeing an island light and wall lights and everything can look very busy.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So do give that due consideration. I personally think kitchen island pendants are on the out.
I don't. I'm okay with them. I still like them.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the debate that's divided a nation.
It's that or wall lights. I think 2 is too busy.
Yeah, agreed. I do agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that.
Less is more, people. Less is more.
There you have it. The show notes are going to be stuffed for this one.
Yeah, stuffed. There's a lot of
We'll put a picture up. We have like a little kind of sample, just like easy lighting plan with those different kind of coloured dots and stuff. We'll put that up on Instagram.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
If you found this episode helpful, please hit subscribe, give us a few stars, and best of all, send it to someone else who you think would like it so they can subscribe too. Thank you.